Hi, my name is Barbara. I am here to do an experiment to see if I can make a knitting podcast like I think every other knitter in the world right now. So we'll see how it goes. I am here recording after a giant blizzard of 2016, which everybody is posting about on social media how much snow I measured. It was 16 inches, so exactly how many years we've been in this century. That's how many inches of snow is in my back porch, which is kind of ridiculous. I think this is the most snow I have seen since I was 8 years old, and we had a giant snowstorm then, so that was exactly 20 years ago. Yeah, it's exciting. So, welcome to this podcast. I'm not sure yet if I'm gonna do more than one. I plan to. Hopefully, I'll get there. Um, so, yeah, you can find me on social media with the username Library Maker. That is on Ravelry and Instagram and pretty much anywhere else you can think of. That's the tag I used. So basically, I wanted to make a podcast that is discussing knitting and sewing and making and creating things, but I kind of would like to also make this podcast be a little bit more about sort of make, do, and mend and DIY culture, and not just all the purchases and shopping that I've done in the past week. Because I love, 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 love all the podcasts I've been watching on YouTube and making friends on Ravelry and all that. But I don't know if it's just because the holidays just happened and everybody's on a little bit of a shopping binge anyways, but it seems like there's been a lot of shopping and a lot less knitting, and I would like to talk more about actual making and also trying to make things that are more budget friendly, or working with what I already have and using up what I have, or finding things that would otherwise be unloved and figuring out how to make those things have a new happy life. Just because that seems a little more my style. So let me see what else can I talk about. So I've been sewing as long as I can remember. Truthfully, I remember learning to read. I don't remember learning to sew. I know I was sewing before I was reading. My entire family, both sides, all the women in the family were like that. Somebody taught them to sew who knows how long ago, and they've just been doing it ever since. So it got passed down to me, and I like that a lot. It makes me very happy that I have this skill that is kind of awesome. Now that being said, that's me holding a needle and thread and doing a running stitch, not I didn't know how to put in an invisible zipper. I still don't know how to put in an invisible zipper, and I honestly am not sure I'm going to stress about that right now. I got a lot of stuff to learn about garment construction, and it's kind of great because there's all this opportunity out there with tutorials online to be able to learn how to do all that. So if I learn something, I will be happy to share, because the open sharing of information is extremely important to me. And I've been knitting for, I think I learned that when I was in elementary school sometime, but I didn't really knit I think I had this one scarf that I would pick up every so often that started with 5 stitches and ended with 25 and somehow was 8 feet long and made out of acrylic yarn, knit with pencils because I was bored. But that never, that wasn't really knitting. I think I learned to really knit when I was in college and needed something to do with my hands, and scribbling in a notebook was really not cool, but I noticed some other kids in my classes knitting and I picked it up and started again, and kind of ever since then have been knitting a lot. It still took me a while to sort of engage in the knitting community. That happened when I lived in Asheville, North Carolina for a year and found a very tight-knit, lovely group of friends that I'm still really good friends with, and they sort of congregated around one yarn store, as usually happens, and we had a grand old time in Asheville, and I moved from just knitting worsted weight scarves and hats into lace and sweaters, and I knit my first sweater while I was in Asheville and did my first complicated piece of lace work. So that was where I sort of really got into it, and that was about, I don't know, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 4. It makes me sad that it's been that long since I've been able to hang out there, but that's okay. Right now, I can't remember if I said this, I am currently living in Central Virginia, north side of Richmond. It's pretty awesome. We got a kitschy little bunch of cottages that sort of dot the north side of Richmond right on the city line, and I get to live here and it's lovely, and there's all sorts of walking stuff, but you're not really in the city, but you could walk to the city. That's kind of the awesome thing, is like I could walk from my house to downtown Richmond. It's a long walk, but that's important to me. So yeah, let's see. So I've been knitting for a while. I've been sewing for forever, but not professionally or well or anything, just because I love it. And yeah, so I guess let's talk a little bit about what I've been knitting and finishing. While I knit constantly, I tend not to be very good at record keeping or knowing what I finished or when. And over the holidays, pretty much everything left the house minutes after it was finished, wrapped up in tissue paper and given to somebody. I think I knit like 18 of those simple house slippers from Temple of Knit that everybody seems to have picked up on because it's a really, really great pattern and it's a really functional object, and I really love functional warm objects that can be produced really easily. So I've been using up a lot of my stash making simple house slippers for everybody. I really like and enjoy the pattern, and I probably will continue to make more. I still haven't made some for myself, but once I make more, I'm sure there are people out there that need warm things on their feet, and I can find them and I can give them warm things, because that's important. You need warm things. It's cold out. It is like 20 degrees out right now currently, and there's 16 inches of snow. It's a little ridiculous. This is Virginia, not Vermont. I've never been to Vermont. I don't know. It's probably worse there, but this is Virginia. We don't get like this ever. So let's see. Finished objects. So the thing I most recently finished is the worm hat, which here it is. I used Rowan Superwash DK. This is actually not for me. This was my best friend Emily sending me a frantic text message saying, I'm going to a video game convention and I need this hat for this costume. Can you please make it? And I just said, okay, give me the yarn, I'll make it. Usually I don't knit on, I don't know what you'd call it. It's not commission. I'm not being paid. I wouldn't want to be paid for my knitting. That's not something I'm into. But like on demand, I guess. Emily has recently learned how to knit, which is awesome. But I think the pattern had just sort of fooled her several times, and I went ahead and just made it for her. And plus it's a hat. I think it took me a total of 4 hours of knitting time. I watched like the New Magicians television show and a couple of podcasts. It was pretty quick. This was a really simple pattern. I have to say I don't much like the top. I knitted exactly how the pattern said. Didn't check my gauge, but it fits. It's the exact size. It ended up the same size it was supposed to be, so I'm guessing my gauge was close. The brim was cool. I might adopt that for future hat patterns, but this is weird to me. I'm gonna pass it on. She did not specify that things needed to change for it to suit the character that she's going as. I don't know which character because I don't play very many video games. So that's finished object number 1, and again that's the worm hat. It's spelled WURM, and I'm gonna put all this in the YouTube notes field so that you can click on the patterns. So that's pretty much my only finished object that I finished recently. I'm wearing, this is a little hard to tell, and I have limited space in my house, but if you can see the pretty pattern, this is the Coda sweater by Olga Baraya Kefalian. I said that wrong, I'm sorry. I knit this and finished it maybe about a month ago. No, more than a month ago, like 2 months ago. I finished it before I moved to Richmond, which was a very recent thing. So it's warm. It's made with my favorite yarn ever, which is a Virginia Farm that I really, really have adored their yarn since I first found it ages ago. Cestari yarn, Cestari. I think they're in Churchville, Virginia, if I remember correctly, is where the farm is located. It's this really woolly, still contains tons of lanolin, really sort of, it's woolen spun. I'm fairly sure that you'd call it woolen spun. It's very lofty, very sort of, I don't know, it feels like it's barely been processed at all, which is what I absolutely love. Like, they literally just shaved the sheep and didn't touch it, and suddenly it magically turned into yarn and they handed it to me. So it still has a lot of like vegetable matter in it when you're knitting, which doesn't bother me at all. In fact, the 2 sweaters I've finished have both been yarns like this, the other one being Peace Fleece, which is, I think it's a blend. It's not just straight merino wool or even merino. I don't know if it's merino or not, I can't remember. But Peace Fleece is really good too. It's very, very sort of woolly wool. And that company is pretty cool too. Like I read about their company, and that's kind of awesome. So 2 finished objects, technically only 1 finished recently. So yeah, I try and finish things. I'm going to get better at finishing things. That's part of this wanting to do a podcast, is to hold myself accountable for the things I'm creating and how much I have that's sort of sitting and languishing in a corner. I need to get better about that. I want to be a little more monogamous, not completely monogamous, because I can't. You need, personally, I have to have different, like, difficulty levels for different situations. And I need something that can be really complicated for when I want to do something challenging. And also, I walk to work, and when I walk to work, so long as it's not 15 degrees like it's been the past week or so, um, I like to knit. As long as I can not wear gloves and can actually knit, I will knit while walking to work, and I need something fairly straightforward and simple, like the simple house slippers, um, that I can work on then. So I have a few works in progress. There are more downstairs in the cupboard, but we're going to finish these, and then we'll bring out those, and then I'll be allowed to cast on something new. And I hope I don't cast on something new anyways, just because I feel like it, which happens a lot. But, so, the next work in progress I'm working on the In Paper Mitts by Uni Jang. They are just barely started. Still trying to figure out how to do the light in my house. I'm using Knit Picks palette and Crystal Palace needles that I've had since I started knitting. I don't hear a lot of other people talk about these needles. Do they still make them, Crystal Palace? I had like a million. But we're right at the very beginning of the mitts. I guess I knit very tightly compared to how most patterns are written, because I always, if I went up as many needle sizes as they wanted me, as I would need to get gauge, I would lose the integrity of the fabric. So I just added a whole bunch of extra stitches, and we'll see how it goes when it gets to the increases in the shaping for the thumb gusset, because that might look a little different on mine. But anyways, this is a very, very cute pattern, very easy color work. I got it memorized by the time I finished my gauge swatch. Hopefully I will be able to get these done fairly quickly, and I will do both of them at the same, like, cast on the second one pretty much as soon as I'm done with the first, and not wait and live with one mitt for ages. And again, that's the In Paper Mitt by Uni Jang. Next work in progress is quite a big one. So I like stranded color work a lot, and just like the In Paper Mitts, I have other stranded color work I'm working on. So my current sweater is the Ursula cardigan by Kate Davies. So let's see, we can get a nice picture. Oh, there's my steek. Okay. So I've been working on this. This kind of went into hibernation a little when I moved, because moving is very stressful, and I could not take all of my knitting, and especially the one that has like 8 balls of yarn that are all constantly being used because it's color work, that had to sit in a bag for a while. So I'm working on it. I changed it from a 3 color repeat to 4 colors. I am using Cascade 220 fingering with this pink is actually palette. I can't remember which palette. I have all the palette, not all of it, but a lot of palette. And I think I just looked and tried to see which looked the best. So that's that. I have now, I think I've finished the ribbing and I've done 5 repeats and of the color work strip, and it's gorgeous and I love it and I love how it turned out. It's going to be just the right weight of a sweater, not really lightweight, so it doesn't feel like you're like it feels like you should wear a heavier sweater, but it also feels really warm and cozy. I think I'm going to add some of the color work to the sleeves. The sleeves on the actual cardigan are blank, just solid color, but I think I would like to add something, just maybe a couple of the repeats around the cuff of the sleeves or something. I don't know. I will see if I can figure that out. And this is the Ursula cardigan by Kate Davies, which is in her Colors of Shetland. The text is going to look backwards. Book, which is an awesome book, and I'm probably going to knit most everything out of it. Shetland style, historically based knitting is kind of my favorite thing ever. So, it'll be fun. I don't think I'll make the little, this is I think a twin set maybe. No, it has mittens. I'll make the mittens. There is like a twin set in there, I think. But that might not be, I prefer just a sweater, not short sleeve sweaters, because the rest of your arms get cold. So, I will. Yeah. What else? I've covered up my show notes. Okay, so the next thing I'm working on, I am working on a sewing project. I am currently working on the Dottie Angel frock, which is a simplicity pattern, but it was put out by blogger Dottie Angel is her blog name. I believe Tiff is her first name, but I do not know her last name. It's a pretty simple pattern. In fact, one of the simplest dress patterns I think I've tried. I'm currently making, I guess, a wearable muslin because, yeah, it's still a muslin, but I'm making out a pretty fabric and I'm doing all the everything, the pockets and all that, and I think it's pretty cute so far. So I'm using some fabric I got when I worked at a lot of different quilt stores. I've worked a lot in retail. But so I'm using, this is the fabric and the patch pocket that I put on yesterday. The fabric from the pocket is a linen, 100% linen that I dyed with some friends a couple of years ago, and I had just enough to make 2 pockets. And then the fabric for the body of the dress was clearance fabric at the quilt store in Asheville that I worked in, and it was a Thanksgiving line, but I couldn't tell you what the company was. I mean, it's 5 years old. It's probably gonna be a little hard to find, and especially because it was holiday, and it was, most people thought it was pretty ugly because there was a lot of it on the clearance table, and it was the type of fabric that would sell at that store. The quilting cotton world is kind of huge and ridiculous, and there are definitely like styles to the different quilt stores you go to, just sort of like there are styles to the different yarn stores you'd go to, and this one catered to the little old lady shopper a lot. And glancing at this, I'd kind of call it little old lady fabric. I mean, it's a floral, it's kind of muted tones, would fit in with the Civil War reproduction fabric pretty well, which I think it looks adorable on a dress, especially with hand-dyed pockets, and I'm going to cover it with little bits of embroidery and such. At least that's the plan. So anyways, this is my works in progress. I got the patch pocket put on yesterday. Only managed to break 1 needle. I think I need to take my machine to get it serviced because no sewing machine should break needles this often, especially when going slowly. I think the timing's off on the machine. Not enough to make it so that it doesn't sew, but enough to make it so that it will occasionally break a needle. But like once every 3 hours of sewing time is too often to be breaking needles, and I'm gonna need to find a good place to repair it here. Last time I lived in Richmond, I had heard mixed reviews of the local sewing machine repair store, so I'll need to find out if they're still the only game in town and if the reviews have changed a little. Because I like my sewing machine and I want to make sure it's treated nicely. His name is Herbert. Yeah, so that's the Dottie Angel Frog. And then the last thing I have as a work in progress is one of these. Everybody's making them because they're a good idea, a really good idea. I had been knitting the Tiny Owl Knits Hexie Puff blanket, so I have a giant stash of minis from swaps and just generally happy, loving people who swap minis in the Tiny Owl Knits group. But I kind of got sick of making Hexie Puffs. They're a great pattern. If you can stand to make 500 of them for a very small blanket, that's fine. There's a lot more work involved in one of those than there is in a square in your Cozy Memories blanket. And who knows, I might get sick of this Cozy Memories, which I'm calling Patches. His name is Patches. I might get sick of him being the blanket, and stop and switch back and use, because most mini skeins come with enough yardage to make more than one blanket square and more than one Hexie Puff. They make, actually, I think I found the only one that did not have enough to do some of each was this blue one here, and I just mixed it with another one that I had a little bit. So I could very easily still make both blankets and just switch back and forth between them when I get bored with one. But it's good. I'm pleased with this blanket so far. I started it only a few weeks ago and have just been sort of addicted. I don't know. Probably shouldn't have started it. I should have finished my sweater first. That's okay. I have a blanket now. And blankets are warm. And that's really why I knit, is because I'm cold all the time. And so I need to make warm things to keep me from being too cold. All right. I think that is everything that I wanted to talk about, at least in terms of things I'm working on. Again, as I said, I have lots of projects downstairs. Lots of them. We're going to finish these. Then we'll see what comes out of the black hole of project bags and works in progress. See what happens. So yeah, okay. I guess one thing I'm probably gonna not do a lot of on this podcast is do a big section with everything I've bought recently. I don't shop that much. I really don't. We had to go to the yarn store to do the warm hat because nothing in my stash would work for it. And I still didn't. I bought some needles. They had mini skeins, so I bought a few, but not too many. And that was the first time I had been yarn shopping in I think since September. So 3 months, 4 months. And I tend not to. I have a huge stash of yarn. I don't need to spend lots. I need to work on what I have. That being said, I love seeing everybody else's yarn. It's sort of like I can shop vicariously through you. But I also don't want this to be about things I buy. So even if I do go to this yarn store or to Fiber Festival, I think the next one I'm going to try to go to is the Powhatan Fiber Festival, which is in the spring. I won't really just go in and try and come back with a big pile of stuff to show. I think I will just stick to what I've been working on, and I'll try to remember the yarns I'm using so that I can tell you, so that you can see how they look knitted up, because I see lots of gorgeous yarn on podcasts, and then but I don't get to see. I'm more interested in how that beautiful skein of hand painted yarn looks as a finished object than how it looks in the skein, because they look really different. And well, they're beautiful in the skein, that's not what I want them for. I want them for knitting. I want them I'm a progress knitter. I like the finished objects. I want to have a finished object that looks how I want it to look. And so when I see beautiful skeins of yarn and I can't sort of envision how they're going to knit up, it's sort of like, okay, show me what it looks like when it's finished. And then when I see the finished object, I get really jealous and I'm like, I want that finished object. How can I find exactly what you used so that I can have something as gorgeous as you did? So yep, that's my little explanation. I hope everybody is staying warm. If you were in blizzard territory, if you are living somewhere where it is naturally warm at this time of year, I'm jealous because it is very cold in my house right now. I'm gonna have to go add another pair of socks because it's, I don't know, it's cold. And I hope everybody has power. That your power comes back on soon, because I heard on the news that there's lots and lots of people in the mid-Atlantic region without power, and I hope everybody is safe and warm. Blizzards are no fun. All of our excitement on Thursday about not having to go into work was, I think we were a little too powerful in our snow calling, because it needs to melt. Can we do the weird Virginia thing where it jumps back up to 70 degrees now? I'd enjoy that a lot. Some 70-degree weather. Okay, well, I hope everybody has a fabulous week. Happy making. Again, you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram as Library Maker. And I was Barbara, and this is my podcast. See ya.